Ahoy! Welcome back to another Brethren guide. As an extension to our previous guide here on the channel where we spoke about why you should engage in PvP, today we want to talk about why you shouldn't run away from PvP. So let's talk about it. So one thing that is very common to see in the Sea of Thieves if you are a pirate seeking battles, and that is players that run. Every thieving pirate will experience this, and it just isn't a reliable way of avoiding fights. The reason why this is the topic for today's video is because all the guides we will bring to this channel will mean nothing to you if you run from every ship that comes close to you. So what do I mean when I say running from fights? There are two things that a lot of people get confused about, and it's important to tell the difference between, and that is avoiding PvP and running from PvP. Avoiding PvP is when you stay under other crews' radars. Do things on the seas that divert attention away from you. For instance, instead of going for world events, you stick to sea forts or voyages. Instead of raising an emissary flag to mark yourself to potential Reaper emissaries, you raise no flag. More on that in another video. Running from PvP is when an enemy ship has locked its sights onto you and is in close proximity to your ship. But instead of turning to fight, you run the opposite direction to the enemy ship, and even go as far as to run from one end of the map to the other, trying to shake off your chaser. This is something which here at the Brethren we try to discourage for multiple reasons. These reasons are as follow. 1. You will waste your time. Running for hours on end will not get you anywhere, especially if you do sink eventually. All that time running would be a waste of time. 2. Tactically, you will be at a disadvantage. Chances are the enemy crew you are running from are very good at PvP. Having your stern to the enemy, especially if you are on a bigger ship, will put you in a bad position. This isn't always the case, but more often than not, I sink runners for this reason. For instance, if the enemy is able to catch up through sheer patience and skill, with your stern to them, they could very well maneuver their ship into a position where they will bring their cannons to bear, while you can't. You could end up immobilized by being demasted or anchored with cursed cannonballs. The enemy could even send boarders to anchor and lock down your ship. 3. You will learn nothing through running. By running, you are not actually fighting the enemy ship, so therefore you are not expanding your knowledge of PvP. By engaging in the fight instead of running, you will learn new things. Even if you sink, your time will be better spent. If you make mistakes, you can learn from them and try something different in the next fight. For example, instead of repairing my ship when the enemy is in my broadside, next time grab a few buckets and jump on cannons to add pressure to the enemy. One thing you definitely shouldn't do today, and that is run and sink your ship in the Red Sea. For those of you who don't know what a Red Sea runner is, it's basically a crew that will run off the edge of the map. This will cause your ship to be torn apart and sink. This would mean that any loot on board would be lost and the enemy ship can't get their hands on it. However, in Season 9 this is no longer the case. If you sink in the Red Sea, all of your loot and supplies that were aboard your ship will appear before the edge of the map close to the enemy ship, marked by birds in the sky. So please don't run to the Red Sea, there will literally be no point. Of course, there are some times in which running is a valid strategy. For instance, if you have no supplies, running away, shooting out to islands as your ship sails, filling your pockets as you go, then when you have a fair amount of supplies, then you can turn and fight. If you are solo, undercrewed, or a crew member disconnected, running is a good idea so you can buy time to get a mate in your crew to help, or to wait for your disconnected crewmate to rejoin. Bear in mind though, if you are solo, this isn't an excuse to use against your enemy. As a solo, I still encourage you to stand and fight. Sometimes the enemy is just way better than you, so perhaps instead of going broadside to broadside, try a new way to fight the enemy. Jump off the back of your ship and try and board the enemy. If you get on board, you could drop the anchor and buy time. Or even sail them to the nearest island or fort and try and sink them like that. You could even lure the enemy to a nearby fort and use stationary cannons to demast and sink the enemy ship. If all else fails, just go straight for a keg play. Find a gunpowder barrel and board the enemy with it. In conclusion, it is more beneficial to try and fight the enemy instead of having the assumption that the enemy will give up the chase after a while. Chances are the chaser is made of sterner stuff, while you, the runner, is getting frustrated. It is more rewarding in the long run to stand your ground and do your best. That is it from us today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to help us out further, join our community via Discord, link in the description. Farewell, and happy pirating.